Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today I'll be talking to you about finding your joy, healing through music. How would you find your joy and heal through music? What motivated my guests to just release a music just during the pandemic to help others who are going through challenging times? And also, an interesting fact about my guest, he's become the fourth Orthodox Jew to sign to a top record label. So we'll be asking him about how he felt being signing up to a record label, and how does his faith play an impact in his life? And as an entrepreneur, a singer, journalist, how does his faith play an impact into this? But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about my guest. My guest, Moshe Reuven, is a seasonal entrepreneur with over 2 million followers who has been at the head of helping build several multi-million dollars companies, startup. Whether CEO, CMO, founder, co-founder, or advisor, Moshe has become a thought leader entrepreneur and building businesses. His writings on entrepreneurship has amused thousands of viewers on top publication. He is a prolific Jewish American journalist, hip-hop artist, internet celebrity, and an entrepreneur. Born in Hollywood, Florida, his debut single, You Are Not Alone, topped the iTunes chart for the US, UK, and Canada shortly after it was accidentally released by his distributor before its release date. As a hip-hop artist, he is managed by Taylor Swift, former manager, and is independent. Although he's been offered deals with some of today's leading record labels, which he's also been signed onto. Along with his growing success in hip-hop, he has held columns and written columns for magazines such as Forbes, Entrepreneur, Business.com, as well as other magazines and news platforms. Today, we'll be talking about challenges of how does your faith play into your entrepreneurship spirits, and how do you find your joy through music. Meet my wonderful guest, Moshe. Welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's conversation is really one that will help any guy who is struggling. Are you out there sitting at home struggling, thinking about what is your next move? How do you grow your business? How do you diversify from what is your normal usual routine to become something successful? My guest, Moshe, has just done that. He is a big-time entrepreneur. He's a journalist. He's just released a massive single, which I hope we could play in the background so you guys can also listen to it. It's a song that will help you through your pandemic, and also he's very much into his religion, and he talks about this, how he's utilized his religion to find his joy as well. Meet my guest, Moshe. How are you?
Thank God, doing well. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Oh gosh, I haven't finished. You should see the beginning of it, because this is just a basic introduction. Then we have a major introduction, because I mean, you are so truly phenomenal, especially the work you did during the pandemic when a lot of people were going through a very difficult time. You decided to go out there and help these people, help them out, not physically, but you used your voice to do that, and that was such an amazing song which you did. But before we get into any of that, can you tell me, who are you?
So Moshe Reuven is, ultimately I'm a fellow observant Jew, ultimately. That's really where I see my mission lies in life as a Jewish person. But I do things. I'm an artist. I'm a budding rabbi, almost ordained as a rabbi. And I have entrepreneurial ventures that I've been building over the years. And I've worked as an advisor or in an officer position for different startups. And I've written for places, written for Forbes, Entrepreneur, Huffington Post, and several other places. And yeah, I mean, I do things that I think are part of my soul's mission in life. Um, and I try to do it in a way that's positive and makes the world an improved place in some way, shape, or form. And I guess that's a bit about it. I don't know. I don't usually describe myself, so.
I know everyone asks that question. They always ask, Anne, okay, where do I start? We expect that to be in the bio, but I like to hear it from people because it gives a different perspective of the way we see ourselves, and it's always nice in a very nice, positive way. When you look at your background, how has your background helped you in shaping you to become the person you are today?
um that's a really good question. It's been very fundamental in who I am. I didn't, you know, like I said before, you know, my Judaism is a big part of who I am, but I never grew up that way. Like I grew up part of the world. I was Jewish, but I was just, you might say secular. We didn't keep any of the Jewish traditions other than like getting bar mitzvah at age 13. And we went to Hebrew school, a couple days a week when we were little, for a few years. And when you get bar mitzvah, it's almost like you graduated. But, my background as far as like just being in part of life and an individual that was part of society in the way that pop culture and the standard way of the status quo of living was, and realizing that some of my ethics and beliefs when I was in my teenage years didn't lead me in the best direction, and I wanted to change my life, and I didn't feel like the world was the way that it could be, and I wanted to be an impactful person that had an improvement on the world around me. And that background of like going through things that led me to those conclusions um, led me to really be purpose driven and meaning driven, and thinking more about what happens when you're gone, and how do you impact the world. Those were my concerns after that at a young age, 16, 17 years old. And Judaism just became part of that later on in life, but it was just overall a spiritual mission. Okay, I'm Jewish, so that's part of my spiritual mission. But there's other aspects, that I could have an impact on the world around me in a positive sense, and that's just been my driving force. That background of where I come from, and then also knowing my Jewish background, and now that I've learned and studied and all these things for years, that's also a huge part of my driving force of wanting to have a positive impact and believing that's the purpose of why I'm here.
Yeah. When you look at that, I mean, anyone reads your bio, one of the key things you emphasize is your entrepreneurship. You've been involved in a number of business, and you actually give, when you give interviews, you actually give some of the life lessons you learned from being an entrepreneur. What can you share with us, the benefits of being an entrepreneur, some of the life lessons that you found?
So I guess the one that I was about to say at first, there's probably a disclaimer with it, but like who you do business with is going to reflect on you in some way. And you have to be very, medaic would be the word in like Jewish terms, but like very specific, I guess you'd say, in like who you allow in your circle and in your world, because that's going to reflect on you whether you like it or not. And maybe it's not the best thing in the world. Like as a person, you should be, I think a person should be open to other individuals. Sometimes they could say this person's going to cause me issues to be too involved with them, but I could say hi. I could meet the person. I could talk with them maybe a little bit, but in business, it's like you're doing a higher level relationship, and you really have to be careful, because a lot of anything that's gone wrong, it's usually being involved with the wrong people and not knowing that until it goes wrong.
And that is very true. When you look at businesses that are successful, You know, they always start with great people having the same ideas, and sometimes they don't really have the same ideas, but the guy feels that this person will add value, but probably they don't connect in certain aspects. So having the wrong partner, I've seen it several times where that just goes wrong and that just destroys them. What would you say about the advice you give to someone about having the right business plan, having the right we've talked about the people skills, but what about the business part now, the planning, the strategic? What are some of the difficulties you've seen from being an entrepreneur?
The balance between strategy and action, especially in startups. Every person in the world has a brilliant startup idea. You know, I could have told you 10 years ago the metaverse was going to happen, but I didn't create the metaverse, at least yet. So, I mean, I'm not the founder of that, but, someone with those, in that place did that. Everyone has ideas, and that's true. And even when I was fundraising money for different ideas that I've had, when I've had traction, everyone will tell you that, because that's the quote, whenever someone doesn't want to they don't have the money or whatever, is that they say, that's an easy thing to say, because startups by definition are starting up. They're at early stages, and they're proving more and more traction. And an educated investor will know what each thing's called and what it means and what's respective of what. Whereas, people that don't know these things are, will just throw things out in the air. But, I would say you want to act, and your strategy should be backed by education and from educated parties, from credible places. There's a startup method today that every person at Stanford is following. And the university I went to, UCF, I got the same model education. They mimicked everything that Stanford does and created a whole program around it. And I know that Steve Blank, an expert in California, is educating these decisions and is teaching me how to structure my business based off what next stage is and what you should do at each part. Or if I go into a company and I'm supposed to help them get from A to B, I know generally where they are and what they're trying to do, and how what that means to investors and people that will matter for their journey. So I would say that knowing from the right people the right information. If you don't have it, admit that you don't have it and find it out, because it's all over the internet. But there's a lot of false information all over the internet too. So you just want to make sure you have the right information and that you're very action oriented. And even if on the outside sense it looks like you haven't accomplished much, you have to know what the strategy is and what the roadmap is, and you'll know what you've accomplished because you went from A to Z, even if an outsider doesn't understand any of what those things are, because you have the expert information.
Yes, yeah. I have to ask about you. You are CEO of your company, and you founded this company based upon the very principles of empowering individuals to reach their fullest potential. I think this is something that you value yourself on. What knowledge have you found that help individuals, right, to reach their full potential?
So I think, obviously, like we said, similar to the last answer, expert advice about how to do things, but routines and habits is life. Anytime a person isn't in sync with their routine, they're not their fullest self, or at least they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So the goal of what we want to change in the world is that there's a real life partner through technology to making sure that occurs every day. Whereas most people are emotional and they have different things and they have distractions and it's so hard to do everything you want to do in your day as to the T that you can. But if you had tools to assist that process, then that would be the most ideal scenario for a person. But the thing is, we have apps everything's just convoluted and you don't necessarily have
Mm.
a disciplined structure to pull you through the most actualized, self-actualized day that you could have.
I have to talk about this. You've become the fourth Orthodox Jew to sign to a top record label. I read that headline. I thought, wow, how did that come about? How did you, as an Orthodox Jew, did you think you wanted to do this, to go out and sing? Is this something, just tell me, how did that headline come about?
Yeah, so Create Music Group, they came out in 2015, and they're kind of like a hybrid label. They're like, they service all the labels, all the big majors in the world, and all the biggest artists. I can name drop, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say. They leverage the biggest artists in the world to higher heights. And then they also bring in new talent, and they'll put up money, and they'll do the whole spiel of a label that's not just servicing another label, that they'll give you the full on label experience as well. So they're kind of a hybrid of the two. And they're the fastest growing company in California this past year on Inc. and the second in the world. And they're yeah, by Inc. and all these like amazing things. And they literally are the people that everyone goes to that's a big name that can. And I was just like, my song just came out, and I was like, I don't know, random people were connecting with me on social media. I have like a couple million followers, and people all over the world in different places of music. And I connected with one of the co-founders of Create, and we just started talking, and they let one thing led to another. Put me in touch with the A&R. The A&R checked me out, everything was good, and then they're just, next thing I know, I'm signing a deal, and I was just like, this is like my dream to do this in music. And especially with a big name in music, I never wanted to do anything on the smaller scale. I always wanted to like do this full on. And I was a year before, like, this music thing, like I've gone so far in entrepreneurship. I'm writing for places like Forbes and Entrepreneur, and I've been in places all over for business. And what why can't I can't break the shell of just releasing something, like put something out. And I put something out accidentally. Actually, I was even thinking maybe I'll take it down and edit it and this, and the distributor put it out without me even having a say. Like, it was like an error or whatever. And next thing I know, I'm charting, in America, like in UK and like all these places. I'm like, thank God. This is pretty cool. I hope this goes to what I want it to become. And now I'm being signed is a big aspect for that, to a large record company. So that's a blessing, thank God.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I read that and I'm like, you did this in the midst of the pandemic as well. All of this happened, especially the song you released. You released your debut single, You Are Not Alone, where which topped out in four countries. You just said America and my UK, where I am. And the single has reached millions because you didn't just release a song, You're Not Alone. You released it at a crucial time where people were felt they were alone. Everyone thought, I'm going through this myself. It's not, I don't see you in it. I just see myself. I see myself in this pain. And your single really touched people on that feeling of you are not alone. I listened to this and I'm now really obsessed with listening to it. What did you think you achieved from creating that much attention through this music?
So the biggest thing, like in Judaism, there's a saying that each person's a world. Like, if you save a person, you save the whole world. Like, every person that is positively affected by a message during a time that they might have been feeling alone, or something in the song that resonated with them, that helped them in some way, shape, or form, to like as a form of empathy for whatever they're going through at that time. That's the biggest mitzvah. It's the biggest thing that you could do. And I feel so blessed to be able to do it at scale. If I drop something and it reaches so many people. You know, like shortly after it dropped out, we were driving down the street nearby in New Jersey, and there were signs that said "You are not alone," as like sayings that, and these were, and there it was in areas that I know were directly, the song directly hit, and it was shortly after. I was like, like this is crazy. Like the message, people, emails, everything, like emails from big corporations were saying at the end of their sentence, "You're not," like it just became like a little bit of a wave, you know, like a ripple. Like you say it and people start saying over this message. So even if it's they directly heard the song or not, the same message being repeated over and over and just affecting so many people, it's like this is huge because there's a medium through which I could drop a piece of a bit of water and it could ripple throughout the world in ways that I don't even see. I'll never even know, you know. And that's a huge blessing. So, I mean, that in short, like that's what I mainly noticed, is that there's so much power behind music. And there's different people in the past like Bob Marley, and like they always think like that music could heal the world, music could, and it's true. It's neutral energy. If you utilize it positively, it could do wonders. If you use it like negatively, it could do the opposite, God forbid. So I'm very thankful, and I hope that what I did also influences other artists and other people to also utilize that tool and that gift that they have to do the same thing in a positive sense of creating positive waves.
I really love that because you just shown us that through music we could heal our pain. As like you rightly said, if we do it positively, it definitely could heal all kinds of pain, get you out of that sorrow, that downtime, that anxiety. Just by listening to the right song, and with your song so catchy, so really empathetic, that tells you that you are not alone. Now we move on to your social media. You have over 2 million followers on social media. What are the downside on the personal level of having to interact and deal with the social media pressure?
Um, I'm speaking to so many different people that sometimes I don't know what to say, because you just have you have, if you speak to everyone, it says you speak to no one. You have to choose who you're speaking to, and hopefully it resonates with everyone else. And you know, if I you know if what you're saying is really good, then it could impact every single individual. But just that's part of the anxiety that comes with it, is like, you know, it's like going up on stage before a bunch of people, you know, like just it makes it a little bit nerve-wracking for me. But see it as a huge blessing, and I know that social media is like the future, and it's the present, and you know, it's the way that we as people today could communicate with mass amounts of people every second, hypothetically. So I really believe in it. I just know that it's a bit of a struggle for me to um you know, deal with that, all that pressure as well. But I'm so thankful to be able to take it on also.
And how do you deal with negative comments and stuff?
um so it's actually something I think about quite often. And because it's not necessarily negative comments that are going to come on your comment section, it could be the guy down the street, you know. So like what I realize is that, and it's a saying that people say all the time: if you're not doing anything, you're not going to get any negative comments. And if you're doing something, and you get, you know, I go to the Rebbe's grave site, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and some of my biggest things have been about, you know, dealing with haters and stuff like that. But I always, whenever I write into the oh hell it's called, you know, I always say like I much rather that than just not even being relevant and no one having anything to say, because I'm not doing anything impactful. So I rather have all the hatred and all the positive as well, because I'm actually causing stuff. But you know, whatever, you know, it's part of life, and it's something that we all have to break through, myself included. You know.
Yeah, I agree. It's something I would just have to get used to because it's something I will always be there as long as there's the social media and there's people are outside or people live in this world. It's just one part or parcel of life, and it's just
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
you go
Sorry.
on, go on.
I just wanted to add that, like, why haters are usually hating on positive things. Like, it's because something deep down is affected by, like, they're affected and there's something wrong with them, that they see some success or something going well for someone, and they want to throw shade in that direction because it will make them feel better about themselves.
Absolutely.
Like, those people are trying to make themselves feel better, meaning that you're doing something really impressive and amazing, and it's a huge blessing, and it's causing a lot of people to be like, I wish I was doing that, in a sense. And those are your biggest fans to some degree.
Yeah.
And they say on social media, your engagement goes up. A bad comment and a good comment both positively impact your engagement. So
Great.
throw all the hate on my comment section, please.
So Moshe, I have to before I let you go, I have to ask you. You attended the rabbi school. I think it's called. Is it called rabbi school?
Rabbinical college. Yeah.
And how do you incorporate all your faith life into your daily life? And how has this helped you in achieving your goals today?
So part of, when I'm most impactful, I did everything right Jewishly that day, and everything is, in a sense, for me as a Jew, everything is Jewish. Like, my best days, my most effective days, I did everything to the T in my Jewish sense also. And I always feel like my success, in a sense, part of it was built up through implementing all these Jewish practices, that I can't have that, I can't eat that, I can't do that. But here's what I can do, and I'm supposed to do it really well because I put myself into it. I'm not distracted by all those other things, And I think my faith and everything else is a million times over intertwined, and the things that aren't religious that I have to do throughout my day could be spiritual if I do it properly and if I did everything else properly throughout my day. So I see them all one and the same. And on my best days, it means that I'm probably doing my best Jewishly that day.
What next for you? Where can we find you? Are you releasing a new record coming soon? The pandemic is not yet over. Are you going to do something else to cheer us all up soon?
So with Create Music, we're working on an EP/album. So that's big. We're gonna release our first single from it very shortly. We just need to take care of a few things before that goes out, but that is a key thing. It might be under the definition of a mixtape or whatever, but it's going to be a body of work of things that I think will be hopefully a positive influence a bit about my journey. And that's I think the next thing. There's a bunch of other things that I'm probably doing that I could think of that they should probably think about, but I would say that that's what they should look out for if there's one thing.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate spending this afternoon.
Likewise.
Where you are, and having this really conversation, enlighten us, because this was such truly enlightening conversation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you as well. It was a great blessing to speak with you.